Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Gopalakrishnan, founder and CEO of Knowi. Thank you so much for joining this talk today. I hope everyone's staying safe, healthy, and sane during these crazy times. And before we get started, I just want to say a quick thank you to the Couchbase team for inviting us to this talk. They've been a great bunch to work with. We've been working closely for the last couple of years, and it's really great to see all the progress that the team's making on the database itself. So with that, let's get stuck right in. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk about Couchbase 6.6 and specifically analytics features within Couchbase 6.6. And then I'll also give you an introduction to Knowi. If you don't know about Knowi already, first of all, where have you been? And then we're going to talk about the native analytics and the BI tool options within the marketplace today, and specifically how Knowi's native integration into Couchbase fits into that picture. We're also going to go through some of the other Knowi features on Couchbase, as well as we're going to spend a decent chunk of time on a live demo as well. So Couchbase 6.6 features. There are two main features in Couchbase 6.6 on the analytics side. There is remote links, which is the ability to get data in a single place if you have multiple Couchbase clusters. Right? So it allows basically data ingestion from various remote Couchbase clusters, enabling that data consolidation and data management. And then the second the big feature in 6.6 around analytics is around external data sets. So if you have data in S3 buckets that you want to then join up with your existing local buckets, then you can basically do that. So that's the other main feature within Couchbase 6.6. And when you look at BI tools on Couchbase, there are basically two buckets essentially. So one is that you can use a ODBC driver from say CData, and shoehorn that Couchbase data into a relational form that allows the traditional BI tools like the Power BIs, the Lookers, and the Tableaus of the world to be able to interact with the data. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming slides. And then you also have the option to basically use the Couchbase SDK and then code up your own, if you like, if your use case is simple that you want to put something into your app directly. And then the other option is Knowi. Yeah, why Knowi? You know, there are umpteen BI tools out there, so why us? So it starts off with the native integration piece. So we're the only native integration solution into Couchbase. And we'll talk about why that native piece matters shortly. And then the second is when usually people think about BI tools, they think visualization solutions. Knowi goes way beyond that, and we'll cover what that means as well in the following slides. And the third piece is embedded analytics. Right? So you can create white labeled products within Knowi, along with your Couchbase data, along with other things too, and other data sets too. And 40% of our customers today use Knowi in an embedded setting, where they've created analytics products that they sell to their customers or expose to their customers. So some case in points, you might have heard recently about Infosys creating a health insights platform with Knowi and Couchbase embedded inside it. Verizon also uses us on top of their device server data from Couchbase and a variety of other sources as well. Then the other two main points I want to make are search-based analytics. This is a new concept around self-service, and think of it as like a Google search interface to your data. So it can help you find the relevant data sets where the data is, and also do computations on top of that, all in plain English. And what I'd like to do is just take a slight detour to show you what embedded and search-based analytics and the combination of the two looks like, just to whet the appetite, and we'll come back to the slides. So this is an embedded site that our team has created for COVID-19 data. So it's a hub that combines data across a multitude of sources. And what you're seeing here is Knowi embedded inside that app itself that tracks case counts over time across countries. And as you can see, as the months tick by, you have US unfortunately in the lead for COVID cases, but we're seeing cases in India explode and then about to overtake United States here soon. And another example of an embedded scenario is this ability to embed this Google search-like concept inside your app, where you can ask questions amongst any of the data sets that the user has access to. So again, from this COVID example, being able to say, show me total cases in US on a weekly basis, right? And then it will tell you which data set it's going to hit based on what you've typed in. And then once you do it, it will compute the results for you and show you the visualization. In this case, these are the weekly case counts in the US. And if you want to do, if you want to compare that against a country like Germany, for example, cases in Germany weekly since March. And then you can see how the case counts has dropped. And then there's a marginal uptick in case counts happening as well as the reopening is underway there. But you can also then compare that with deaths to see how the comparison holds with deaths, and there's less of a spike in deaths happening within Germany. So they've tend to, as you can see, they've done a decent job there managing this whole pandemic. Now with that, let me go back into the slides, and then we'll go through the native integration into Knowi and then get into a bit more details on that. So why native and why is that important? With traditional BI tools, they're built for structured SQL data, right? So it's expecting data in rows and columns. And the reason that you have to do a driver is to do that translation between your semi-structured, unstructured data to that structured form. And it's a little bit like you've bought a Ferrari engine, but then you're putting a Pinto on top of it, essentially, right? So that's why native really matters, because with native integration you get full NICL support, so which is what Knowi supports. You can type in NICL and get answers right away. And you don't have to go in and transfer the data or put ODBC drivers along the way. The other thing you can also supports is the ability to traverse through nested arrays and objects, and having support for things like full text search, remote links and external data sets, and so on and so forth, right? And the other thing you can also do is if you have other databases inside your infrastructure. So if you have Couchbase and your SQL databases and REST APIs, you can combine them all together using Knowi as well. So that's native integration piece. Now let's talk about analytics reimagined, what we mean by that. So for us, it's the ability to search and visualize the data, being able to trigger actions and alerts in a variety of different ways through email, SMS, Slack, and then also being able to, for more advanced use cases, we have a machine learning workspace. You can create your models within, and then combine your Couchbase data along with your ML models to combine this hindsight plus foresights, and then also use the trigger notifications to drive actions to close the loop as well. So that's what we mean by analytics reimagined. Onto search-based analytics, we saw that in action briefly. It's the ability to ask questions in plain English. We think that this is a key driver for the next generation of self-service analytics. So the best way for self-service analytics is asking questions, right? So that's what you want your data interface to do, and that's what we provide. And as you saw earlier, you can take that search bar, embed that inside your own application. You can use that within Knowi, and you can do it across one data set, all the data sets, or currently from the current dashboard. And then what we've also launched very recently, is our Slack integration, and it's the ability to ask questions from Slack and also collaborate and share insights and results, not just from the Couchbase data, but across your entire data stack. For embedded analytics, we saw an example of that a few minutes ago. It's the ability to white label Knowi inside your product to give it the same look and feel, and gives you fast time to market to drive insights for your customers, as well as create, monetize that data for your customers as well in some cases. So with that, I'm going to get into a demo. We'll cover through a couple of things here. We're going to connect into Couchbase. We'll run some simple queries natively via Nickel. Then we'll get into the remote links to external data sets and joins. So a little bit more of a complex example. We'll talk about data models, security, governance along the way, and then dedicate some time to the business user experience in terms of visualization, search-based analytics, Slack integration, and so on during the demo as well. So I'm in Couchbase Query Console, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a number of dataverses and data sets within those dataverses that's been set up on the Couchbase Analytics site. And so US orders is pointing to a local cluster bucket, essentially. And then you have non-US orders, which is remote link. So it's a completely separate database cluster, Couchbase database cluster. It's getting that from. And then you have S3 orders, which is data from S3. And next, what we'll do is we'll get into Knowi and connect into this query, visualize, analyze, and then do search-based analytics on that. So first up is connecting into Couchbase with Knowi. I'm going to take a connection here that's been preset. I'm just going to clone that so we have a new instance here, and you can either connect into an analytics dataverse, or if you leave that empty, we'll just delegate that to normal Nickel processing. If you've made, if you want to skip the analytics node completely. So I've got the data source set up. The next step is being able to execute Nickel queries against it. So two options: you can just type in Nickel in its raw form. We support everything that Nickel supports essentially, so because it passes through the Couchbase SDK. Or for more simpler stuff, you can basically just generate the queries, Nickel queries here too. So let's say if I'm interested in that remote data set, right, and then I want to know all the large orders from S3 orders that I want to do some analysis on. So I can basically just start building the query for it. So in this case, I want to know the total. I want to know the date. I want to know the order status, right? So if I pick that, I think it's a field called order status. So if you've got your Nickel query, let's also just do I'm interested in larger orders. So let's also put a filter condition in there as well. So it'll be grand total greater than or equals to 10,000, right? And let's do that. So if you've got this Nickel query that's ready to go, let's do a quick preview on this. Let's see what we get, and call this large orders S3. Right, and we've got the data that looks right. And I want to make maybe a small couple of adjustments to the data. And you can do this within Nickel directly, because Nickel is very powerful in doing this, but just for demo purposes' sake, you can also manipulate the data with Cloud9QR. Cloud9QR is basically a post-processor. It's not a replacement to Nickel, right? It's just, so this will get executed first. And if you want to do some manipulation on that, for instance, I'm just interested in, truncating the date as date, round out the grand total to, get rid of the decimal points, call that amount, order status as status. So if I do a quick preview on this, then I should see the results that I'm looking for. And then you can basically save this, and this could be a real-time query against a data store, or we can cache it, and then you can drive off the cache as well. So then I'm going to create a dashboard called large orders, and just grab the data set we've just created into that. So it's a very simple data set here. So just to summarize, what I've done is connected into Couchbase, generated an echo query, or could have just typed that in myself, and got the results right off the bat. And then if I want to ask some questions on this data, you can, now it's almost like a business user view, where I can just say, I want to know, for instance, the total amount monthly by status, for example. And then if I want to put that into some sort of visualization, it suggests me a visualization. There are 30-odd visualization types you can choose from. This is good enough for me. One thing I'm immediately noticing here is that the canceled here, there is a spike in March of last year that I want to do some deeper digging into, right? So let's save this as a view, large orders or something like that. And this will create essentially a view on top of that same data set. So if I look at the data diagram here, you have two views on top of the data set we've created. So now if I want to ask questions on the canceled order for March last year, you can do things like, top 10 amounts for canceled last March, for example. And let's see so those are the top amounts. That seems okay. That seems within the realm of possibility. So being able to just ask quick questions and get results right away on top of that data. So it enables that business users to discover insights very quickly, rather than having to figure out how the data is put together behind the scenes. So we've done a simple example with S3 data. Now let's take a look at a more complex example that also does joins with remote links as well. So this complex query that I wrote up earlier, it queries the US products data set and grabs the total amounts on a per country product data and per day. And then there's also this non-US products, which is essentially a remote link. It does a similar thing, and then it puts it all together along with a grouping at the end that gives us a category along with date and amounts and so on. This takes a few minutes to run. So I ran it earlier. So if you click on that status, you can see there are about 660,000 records returned. Took a couple of minutes to run. And also what I did was create a dashboard from that as well. So if you go into the products dashboard, you can see dashboard from that data that we've created as well. And you can filter those. There's automatic slice and dice. You can just, add new things here and have it automatically applied on top of the data. But what I wanted to show you was latest thing that we've developed around Slack integration as well. With Slack, you have the ability to ask questions in plain English on Slack, as well as interact with the dashboards or grab the dashboards. And then we have the ability to also send in push notifications to Slack for alert type conditions as well. So it all works with just basically doing a /Knowi, and then that will give you, what are the commonly asked questions that people have asked. So for example, if I want to know what's the average order or total amounts for United States for a specific category on a monthly basis, I might ask something like, let me just take something like this and I'll just modify that. So what is the, instead of average, I want to know the total amount for automotive. Let's do Ireland. Monthly since August, for instance. See what happens. And then as you type that in, it's hit the right data set, which is a complex query thing that we've developed earlier. And it gives you the information right there and then, right? And you can start asking additional questions on top of this data, or you can basically share it to other people in the team. Say, why are numbers down for September, for example? And I'll immediately share that with, I've shared it to this channel, but I can share it to other people, anyone in the team itself. And then you can also share schedule questions and answers for those as you're tracking a metric, if you like. And it just basically closes the loop in terms of collaboration and taking the right action from the data. With that, I'm going to go back into the deck to finish up. Well, thank you for attending today. I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ping us at knowi.com, support@knowi.com if you have any technical questions. There's also a bunch of resources I've listed here in case they're also useful. If you go to knowi.com/couchbase, there's a playground there that you can type in Nico onto a live workspace and then get results and things right off the bat there, along with some tutorials and things on the deck as well. Well, thank you again very much. Have a great one.